start? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So Mabruk to everyone here, myself included, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed us and blessed us and gifted us with this month of Ramadan. SubhanAllah, that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ once compared a man who had passed away, or had not passed away, but who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had taken in jihad, and compared them with a man who got one extra Ramadan. And the reward of the man with the extra Ramadan was greater than the reward of the man who had passed or had gone to meet his Lord with having sacrificed his life. So it's a huge, huge bounty. Now there's a lot to say about Ramadan and how to get the most out of it. And as I'm talking, please feel free to, if you have any questions or if you have anything specific that you want me to talk about, do so. And in fact, before I start, does anyone have any questions in mind or anything that they'd like to know more about, specifically about Ramadan and how to get the most out of it? Before I start, and then inshallah I'll proceed. Anything? Alright, cool. So, firstly, the importance and the magnitude of Ramadan has to be understood first. Yeah. Once we've understood that, then it makes sense why we would then strive and why we would then do our best thereafter, inshallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed fasting upon us as He prescribed it upon the people before us, as He says to us in the Quran. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained it and made it obligatory upon us exactly the same way that He made it obligatory upon the people before us. And the Prophet ﷺ, he describes how if a man misses one, or a woman, if a believer misses a fast during Ramadan without license, i.e. they're not fasting, they're not ill, they don't have a job, or they don't suffer from a job that's so hard that they can't fast, or they don't suffer from anything terminal that would stop them from fasting, then if they were to fast the rest of their life, every single day for the rest of their life, they wouldn't be able to make up the reward of that one day. Okay? So even, yes, tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would remove the sin, but the reward that they would have gotten had they fasted that day, they would not be able to get that same reward if they fasted the rest of their life. Now to put that into perspective, the Prophet ﷺ says the one who fasts a day outside of Ramadan, it takes him away from hell 70 years. 70 years. It distances a person from hell 70 years, one fast, one day. So now what we're saying is that the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us that one day of Ramadan is equal to 70 years times a lifetime worth of fasting. Yeah? 70 years times a lifetime worth of fasting. Okay? So do the numbers. I mean, it's crazy. That's crazy. And that's just one day of Ramadan. Never mind that we have 29 or 30 days of Ramadan. Okay? So that's the magnitude of Ramadan. That's the magnitude of every day's fast in Ramadan. The people before us, they used to live, for example, Noah lived for 1,050 years. The people before us lived for much longer. Sayyidina Adam lived for even longer than that. So this is a way for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, and especially Laylatul Qadr, is a way for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the barakah in our time, such that though we only live for 60, 70, maybe 100 if we're very unlucky, years, that we are able to get some of that barakah back in Ramadan and in Laylatul Qadr specifically. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Why has He ordained fasting upon us? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So that you may attain taqwa. So that you may attain taqwa. Now, what is taqwa? What is taqwa? What is taqwa? What's taqwa? How do you know you have taqwa?
Control your actions with no external monitoring, external accountability.
Okay, so your ability to control your actions without any external accountability. Okay. Any other definitions? ladies? What's taqwa? No taqwa in the room? What's taqwa?
When you worship Allah, that is if you sleep, but you don't really sleep.
Okay. Okay, that's ihsan. Taqwa falls within that. But taqwa specifically is that you are where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked you to be, and you are away from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited. Okay? So it's very close to your definition, but in terms of if you're looking for something practical so that at the end of every single day you can ask yourself, was I where Allah asked me to be? Did I do what Allah asked me to do today? And did I stay away from that which Allah prohibited me from? If you do these two things, you have taqwa. So what's important about that is that taqwa is not how you feel. Do you understand? Taqwa is not a spiritual high. Taqwa isn't how you feel, whether you feel good about yourself or bad about yourself. Taqwa is very specific, very, very practical. Have you done what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked you to do? And have you stayed away from that which He has prohibited you from? If yes, then you have taqwa. If today you did more of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked you to do than yesterday, then you have more taqwa. It doesn't matter if you feel better or worse. If you did more today than what you did yesterday, you have more taqwa. If you stayed away, if you did less sins today than you did yesterday, then you have more taqwa. Does that make sense? So that's how you know that you have taqwa. So then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that we have ordained upon you fasting so that you may attain taqwa, this is the reason. Now why? Why does fasting help us attain taqwa? Why does fasting help us attain taqwa? Based upon that definition, why does fasting help us attain taqwa?
You're more conscious of your behavior and therefore
Yeah.
staying
Yeah, you're starving. Every time you come to eat, you're like, no, Allah has prohibited this. Yeah. So it's that constant reminder, what has Allah allowed me to do? What has He prohibited me from? Every single second of the day. Yeah. I'm thirsty. I'm going to work. I've got exams of this or that. Shall I drink? Shall I this? No. Because you're always reminded. The hunger prompts you and reminds you to ask yourself, am I allowed or not? Yeah? Is this a good thing or not? Does that make sense? So therefore, this is what the fasting does. The fasting is a training. Fasting is a training to allow you to get back into touch with this process of having taqwa. Okay? This process. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ, whoever has taqwa, whoever has this taqwa of Allah, in other words, they're asking, am I doing what He has asked? Am I staying away from what He's prohibited? Whoever has this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him a makhraj, gives him a way out, gives him a solution. مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ, from which he would never have calculated, him or anyone else. Okay? Him or anyone else. So this training isn't just a training to have taqwa, it's a training actually that you find these solutions for yourself. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you solutions. Does that make sense? It's a training so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can then decides to help you. Yeah? You're putting yourself in a situation where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you that makhraj, will give you that out, give you that solution. So for example, you're stuck and you don't know what to do. And there are options that are not halal. Right? And they would take you out of your problem. Okay? But you choose to have taqwa. You know that it's haram, so you don't do it. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings the solution. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings the solution, and you never would have seen that solution. And no one else would have seen that solution either. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that taqwa is the head of everything. The head of everything. It is the most important thing for everything, is taqwa. Because if you don't have it, nothing else counts and nothing else matters. Okay, so the goal of fasting is this taqwa. Now Ramadan, we always say Ramadan is the month of, apart from fasting, Ramadan is the month of
Eating.
Quran. Ibadah is the month of Quran. Ramadan is the month of Quran. We always say this. Ramadan is the month of Quran. Why? Because Quran was revealed in Ramadan. Okay, all of it was taken to the heavens in one night, Laylat Qadr, and then it started also to come down, dripped, fed, but it began from the heavens to the Prophet ﷺ in Ramadan. So it is the month of Ramadan. Yeah? Ramadan is the month of Quran, sorry, and it's also the month of your brain losing things because you're hungry. Okay? It's the month of Quran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. That is the book, there is no doubt therein. And then what does He say? He says, it is a guidance for those who have taqwa. Okay? And you see the link? It's a guidance for those who have taqwa. So in other words, an atheist, an Orientalist could be reading the Quran, they understand it better than you and I. They understand the grammatical structures of it better than you and I. They've studied it their whole life. And they've studied it with the intention of destroying it, of trying to find fault within it, of trying to, or maybe just academically, just because, you know what, a few billion people read this, it's nice to know, let me find out what it is, let me get a PhD while I'm at it. Okay? But does it guide them? Does it guide them? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this has been sent as guidance for the one who has taqwa. End of story. So I read it. If I have more taqwa, I get more out of it. If I have less taqwa, I get less out of it. Now yes, the Quran gives me taqwa because as I read it, I realize this is a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if I choose to close that door of taqwa, it is useless. By my choice, it's rendered useless. Does that make sense? By my choice, it's rendered useless. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah as well, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَأَنذَرْتَهُمْ أَمْ لَمْ تُنذِرْهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Okay, the people who choose to disbelieve, regardless of whether you tell them or you don't tell them, they will not believe. And then كتب الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sealed their hearts and their sights and their hearing. And someone once asked, and I was there at the time, and he said, but is this fair? Is it fair that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would seal their hearts and their ears and their sight and then test them and then say, you did wrong? Is that fair? It's not fair. 100% it's not fair. So why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that? But after these verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that's because when the truth came to them, they denied it. And they kept denying it till Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sealed their hearts. That's it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew there was no point. Just like with Nuh, Prophet Nuh. 1,050 years he's giving da'wah. Nothing's happening. Allah, he then makes dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inspired by Allah, that these people will never believe, so get rid of them. Yeah? So sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He mentions the conclusion before He tells you how. He mentions the result before the working. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions these people are useless, and then He tells you why. That they made themselves useless. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created someone, then made them blind, and then said, okay, you're going to hell. It doesn't work like that. So this hudan lil muttaqeen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this a guidance for those who have taqwa. It's a guidance for those who have taqwa. It's not a guidance for anyone else. Yeah? And anyone who chooses not to have taqwa is not guided by this. So when we say this is the month of the Quran, can you see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to fast in order to have taqwa? And He guides those who have taqwa. So this is the month of Quran and the month of fasting. And these two things come hand in hand. They come hand in hand. Which means that if you're reading the Quran and you don't understand what it means, is that useful or not? If you're reading the Quran in Arabic and you don't understand what that means, is that useful or not? In terms of guidance?
No.
It's not useful. Okay? Now, a lot of people say, okay, so therefore go learn Arabic. Fine, but that's not 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 month job. It's a life, it takes a long time to learn it, to the degree that would allow you to be able to understand the Quran. So what I would say is read the Quran in English if you don't understand in Arabic. And if you understand in Arabic, but you're born in this country and your English is good, or you've been here majority of your life, read in Arabic and English and see the difference it gives you. You'll understand more in Arabic once you read in English. Yeah? Because in English, you'll even, 6, 7, 8 translations, each one of them is different. Read each of them and compare it to what you understand from the Quran. And you'll find, oh, I never realized that before. I never saw it like that. So even if you understand Arabic, but the point here is that it's about guidance. So if you're reading it and it doesn't make any sense to you, yeah, then this is pointless. There's no longer guidance. It's not why it was sent. Yeah, it's not why it was sent. Which is why it's very strange that that there are mosques, the khutbah is in Arabic, and no one in the congregation is an Arab. Yeah, either Indian or Pakistani or Malaysian or Malay or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't make sense because this is supposed to be guidance. This is supposed to be guidance. Okay, So if you're going to Taraweeh and you know that, for example, that the Imam is going to be reciting Juz 4 or 5 today, read it beforehand or read it after. But don't just stand there like this listening to like just beats. Yeah, you're just listening to beats. What's the point? Yeah, do you understand? You're just listening to someone, you know, the mad and the shad and that's it. But what's the point? It's not guidance. It's not guidance. So we're not like the Christians. The Christians, they believe they have blind faith, and the reason why they have blind faith is because their sources were corrupted. Their sources were corrupted, and so they have to have blind faith. But we don't have blind faith because our sources were not corrupted. We ask questions. Yeah, our faith is not blind. It's not based upon that, and so therefore, when you read the Quran, this huda, this guidance, is not blind. Remember, what is taqwa? I said is not a feeling. Taqwa is not a feeling. Taqwa is something that you can put on a spreadsheet at the end of the day. You can say, did I do more good? Did I do more bad? Yeah. And you know you have taqwa. Same thing with guidance. It's very practical. If you either understand it or you don't understand it. Okay? So, hudan lil muttaqeen. This Quran is a guidance for those that have taqwa. The more you fast, the more taqwa you'll get, the more guided you get. The more you read Quran, the more taqwa you'll get, and the more guided you'll get. Okay? Now we know that Ramadan has 3 stages. The first is the 10 first days, or days and nights, are the days of mercy. The second 10 are the days of forgiveness, and the third 10 are the itq from being saved from hell. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us all. Okay? So those are the 3 thirds of Ramadan. Those are the 3 thirds of Ramadan. Now there's something about Ramadan also that's very, very, very special. And that is patience. That is patience. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give His servant anything better than patience. I'm going to say that again. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give His servant anything better than patience. Nothing. You will not get anything better than patience. Because it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, it doesn't matter whether you're in the UK or whether you're in Syria. Each one is tried. Every single person is tried. Every person is tried. Now there are 2 types of patience, broadly speaking. One patience is the patience against harm. So you don't have enough money and you're patient. People are making fun of you and you're patient. You're getting battered and you're patient. That doesn't mean you just sit there quietly, but you fight back, but you're patient. Yeah? What does that mean? It means that you're not like, why is Allah doing this to me? Why this, why that? So you're patient against harm or against affliction of harm. The second type of patience, and this one's, subhanAllah, so many of the people that pass the patience of hardship, they don't pass this patience, which is the patience of ease, the patience of bounty. And many people do not pass this. So, when you're fasting Ramadan, what type of patience is this? When you're fasting in the day, what type of patience is this? Of ease?
Yeah.
Is fasting easy?
No, that's like you have something easy and you're holding yourself. It's not that you don't have food and you're just patient.
Okay. From that perspective, yes, you're right. Okay, Jazakallah. From that perspective, you're right. But from the perspective of it being difficult, yeah, is that. Now, when you come to break your fast, and this is what many people miss, when you come to break your fast, what type of patience is this? Of ease and bounty, right? And how many of us pass this test of patience? Or is it all-out warfare? You dive into into your plate. Okay, you come out with like food all over. Okay, when it comes to Taraweeh, you open your belt, and you have to pray like this because if anything touches your stomach, you'll vomit on the person in front of you. Yeah, or the guy behind you who's burping into you all throughout the whole prayer. How many people pass this type of patience? This is a patience to remember. Okay, a lot of us will alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, and then we'll just go all out warfare. But this is wrong. The amount of people that put on weight in Ramadan, that's miraculous. That anyone could put on weight in Ramadan is miraculous. Okay, especially these long nights, these long days. It's miraculous. It's not possible. And so subhanAllah, look at these days are so long that by the time Maghrib comes in, your stomach shrinks literally. Okay, and you've all felt this. You eat and you get to a point where you know what, I'm full now. But you push through, right? You push through, and then your stomach goes, okay then, fine. And then it opens up somehow, and you carry on until you're beyond even breathing. Okay? But what is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? The Prophet ﷺ, he said the worst container that the children of Adam can fill, the worst container the children of Adam can fill is their stomach. The worst container the child of Adam can fill is his stomach. The worst. I mean, think of all the containers you could fill. I mean, in terms of land, in terms of buckets of gold, how much greed and how many containers are there to fill in this earth? And yet the Prophet says the worst one is your stomach. Think about that for a minute. I mean, does filling your stomach lead to murder? Does it lead to... What does it lead to? It leads to incapacity. You're just vegetation. What's so bad about that? But the Prophet said the worst thing you could fill is your stomach. Medically this is true. Spiritually this is true. Mentally this is true. Everything is true on every level. When you're like that, you can't think clear. When you're like that, you're lazy. You want to sleep. When you're like that, the last thing you remember is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're groggy. The worst thing you could fill up is your stomach. And the son of the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if you must, look at this, if you must, that you fill up your stomach with 1/3 of food. If you must. Like that's the maximum. Even that's like on the edge of, okay, you're allowed. Like that's the maximum you can do. Is like, someone says to you, the speed limit is 70. If you go 71, you've broken. So 70, you're like on the edge. Isn't it? So the maximum we should be able to do is 1/3. 1/3 for food, 1/3 for drink, and 1/3 for breathing. Today we fill it up, and then we drink. And then breathing, we worry about that later. Find ways to sit, find ways to, get comfortable afterwards. But this is against the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So when it comes to breaking your fast, when the adhan of Maghrib, you hear it, and the time comes to eat, that patience, arguably is harder than the patience of fasting. Because the patience of fasting, is prohibited. It's prohibited. Allah has closed that door for you. It's prohibited. But this is allowed. Yeah? It's allowed. So do you dive in or do you stop? Yeah? So that's the second type of training that it gives you. Now the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. The ones who have patience, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them the reward without any cap. Without any cap and without any calculations. So Prophet ﷺ tells us that for example, if you do a good deed, it gets multiplied by 10, and then Allah can multiply up to 700. Okay? And He then multiplies after that to whom He wishes, depending upon your level of sincerity. But can you see the levels? So a good deed starts at 10, it can be up to 700, and then if you're amazing, Allah can multiply it thereafter. A bad deed is just 1. And some bad deeds are greater than other bad deeds, but you only get the ratio of what it is. A 1-to-1 ratio. However, with patience, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He gives them the reward without calculation. So there's no such thing as you've been patient, so therefore you're going to get 50. The angels don't write a number. The angels just write, He's patient. And then Allah does what He wishes thereafter. Yeah? The angels don't know what to write. Allah does what He wishes thereafter. Does that make sense? So, the one who is patient is such a big deal. It's such a big deal. And subhanAllah, once the Prophet was walking past a woman who had just lost her husband or something, and she was crying and slapping her face and doing all sorts. And he said, be patient. And she said, she didn't know it was the Prophet. She said, what would you know? You don't know what just happened to me. And then later on she realized, she found out someone told her this was the Prophet. So she went to him and she said, I'm very sorry for what I said, etc. He said, look, patience is what you do at the time. It's all well and good to come and apologize to me afterwards. Okay, fine, the sin is erased, but patience is what you do in the heat of the moment. In the eye of the storm, that's what patience is about. Yeah? That's what patience is about. And patience is so blessed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah, inna Allaha ma'as sabirin. O you who believe, seek help and refuge. Seek help and refuge. In other words, this is the credit, this is the help, this is the fuel. Seek help and refuge in patience and prayer. So, patience, fasting all day, we're supposed to seek help in that. We're supposed to seek help. It's not something to retard you or to challenge you or to limit your resources. It's a form of help. It's a form of sustenance and guidance and assistance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Was-salah, and we fast Taraweeh. Don't we fast Taraweeh during Ramadan? So look how blessed Ramadan is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the opportunity to be patient and the opportunity to pray. Inna Allaha ma'as sabirin, Allah is with the patient. Now, if you go into a fight, I remember as a kid, the one, you always wanted the guy who's stronger than you to be on your side. Yeah? There was always one guy in your year who everyone knew he was the man, the top guy. No one beat him and he would beat everyone. When he was on your side, you were happy. So Allah is the greatest of examples. Imagine now you're fighting a war against anyone, or you have a problem with the bank, or do you want Allah on your side or on their side? And when Allah is on your side, is there anyone who can beat you? When Allah is on your side, is there anything you need to worry about? And so the number one, and even the non-Muslims believe this, the number one factor for success is patience. The number one factor. They call it perseverance, they call it tenacity, whatever. I'm not, that's their problem. Yeah? We call it patience. And the guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, which is an okay book, but it's got a few things in it that are wrong as well. It's based upon a philosophy, maybe you've read it or heard of a new book called The Secret. Yeah? It's based upon a philosophy that whoever wants it more will get it. But that's not true. I mean, the kids in Ethiopia, you don't think they want water more than I do? But they don't get it more than I do. That's it. Yeah, that philosophy is a philosophy of greed. The one who is the most spoiled little child gets the thing. No, the universe doesn't work like that. Okay? But anyway, in this book he says one thing that's very good, and then he changed it. He changed it later. He has a whole chapter on perseverance. And this whole chapter is about one man. Guess who this one man is? This is an American writer. Guess who this one man is? This whole chapter of perseverance, I think it's chapter 12 or 13 in his book. Guess who this man's about? The man is Prophet Muhammad. He says against all odds for 13 years, against all odds, and then afterwards for another 10 years, against all odds. He cites the Prophet ﷺ, from all of what he knows, he cites him to be the number one example of patience. Then he died, and now the latest ones, they cite Arnold Schwarzenegger. So random. Such an insult to remove this guy, and I'll be back. I'll never want to see you again. Don't worry, you're going to die in a few years anyway. Okay? But look at this, he cited the Prophet ﷺ. Patience, the number one factor for success. The number one. Out of 10 businesses, 1 in 10 businesses, or 1 in 5 businesses last for the first 5 years. And then out of them, 1 in 5 businesses. Yeah? It's just about that. The first time I heard this, I said, okay, now I'm going to have 10 businesses. And one of them will succeed. But that's the attitude that you need to have. It's about perseverance, it's about patience. It's about, I will continue. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with the one who has patience. And that's it. He's not with anyone else. He is with the one who has patience. Does that make sense? And you'll find that that so many wars, so many pivotal wars were won in Ramadan. So many pivotal wars were won in Ramadan. And the companions were fasting. Some of them didn't, some of them did. When Qutuz beat the Mongols, it was in Ramadan. When Salah ad-Din fought the Crusaders in Ramadan. So many of our battles were won in Ramadan. So many. So many. This isn't a time, subhanAllah, now you go to the Muslim countries and you find Ramadan is the most unproductive the most unproductive time. I mean, in Yemen, they found anyway the normal average day, average worker works 12 minutes a day. Normally. In Ramadan, I don't know, it's 12 seconds a day or something, yeah? But this is the exact opposite. The exact opposite. We've been fasting now for 4 days. Maybe the first 2 days were hard. But now don't you feel a little bit lighter? Don't you actually feel lighter? Like you've got more cardio? Though you haven't been running, but you have more cardiovascular ability. What's that all about? Yeah? This is the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this ummah, has given this nation. And He gave the people before as well, because we were all Muslims. But He's given us this. This is something we don't take lightly at all. So my suggestion to you when you come to break your fast, during the day it's about patience. And when it comes to breaking your fast, also about patience. When you feel that you want to eat more, stop. Until you don't want to eat more, and then eat. And then when you feel like you're getting the momentum back, stop. And do it like this. The Prophet ﷺ, his sunnah was to eat very little. Just dates, water, whatever else. Just the fruits. And then to pray Taraweeh, and then to eat later. That's the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay? And the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is he would never eat meat after Maghrib. He would never eat meat after Maghrib. Very few people know this sunnah. He would never eat meat after Maghrib. So really, in Ramadan, he was a vegetarian. For practical purposes, he was a vegetarian. Okay? Every single time someone who's not Muslim finds out that you're fasting, they're like, how the hell can you do it? And they're obese. It's like, how can you not do it? Yeah? And they talk like, but you'll die. Yeah? Isn't that bad for your health? Isn't it this? Isn't it that? And subhanAllah, recently they found that actually fasting is the best thing for your health. Better than anything. But don't be fooled into fasting for the sake of your health, because then you don't get rewarded. It doesn't count. Now, the thing about Ramadan, the Prophet ﷺ tells us that the devils are shackled in Ramadan. The devils are shackled. They're tied. They're shackled during Ramadan. Which means now that this is a time that you know yourself. If you find that you want to do a sin, we don't blame that on the shaitan anymore. There's no one whispering in your ear. Yeah? This is the programming that the shaitan did before he went. Yeah? You pressed the on button on the remote control, and then he went into his little prison and he's waiting to come back and Eid. Okay? In between, that's the programming you've got. You know what you have jealousy, you have ill feelings towards people. That's your program. No one's whispering to you. Does that make sense? So all the things that happen in Ramadan, that's your program. And so this is a time for you to realize, okay, well, it could get easier. I could actually, I might have an opportunity here because I have less of a burden. The shaitan isn't whispering in my ear. There's less gravity on my shoulders. And that's why this would be a good time for you to start good habits. This is a good time for you to start good habits. We'll talk about this in the next, I think after 2 weeks, inshallah, about how to continue after Ramadan. How to make Ramadan continue into the rest of the year. Okay? But for now, just think about what do you want to have as a new habit. What do you want to have as a new habit? Because the shaitan isn't here to tell you no. So if you feel lazy, that's your fault. It's not the shaitan's. One other thing that I want to tell you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala multiplies everything in Ramadan. Everything. The fard gets multiplied by 60. And the sunnah or the nafl becomes a fard. Now, so many people rush to pray Taraweeh. How many rak'ahs is Taraweeh? Huh? 8, 10, what else? 20. Okay. So, that means you're doing 20 rak'ahs. 20 rak'ahs of nafl equal how many of fard in Ramadan? 20. Okay. How many rak'ahs are there in Isha? 4. And each rak'ah is multiplied by how many? 60. What's 4 times 60? 240. 240 rak'ahs just for praying Isha, compared to Taraweeh, which is 20 max. So how much more is Isha than Taraweeh? 12? 12 times more. That's just Isha. What about Maghrib? Maghrib is going to be 60 times 3, 180. Asr, 240. Dhuhr, 240. Fajr, 120. So, what do you think the priority is in Ramadan? To pray Taraweeh or to pray every single prayer in the mosque with Jama'ah? Do you understand? So in Ramadan, it's just the same as outside of Ramadan. Fard first. You do the obligatory first. People that want to pay sadaqah, and when you tell them to pay zakah, which is even less, they go, no, I want to pay sadaqah. You're a muppet. It's the most retarded thing. It's so stupid. Do your fard. Just 2.5% do your fard, and then some people wait till the last 10 days. Why? Oh, maybe I'll get Laylatul Qadr. No. There are people dying today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reward you get for saving life is far greater. You think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to, don't wait till Laylatul Qadr. You don't even know what Laylatul Qadr is. Okay, well, I'll give a tenth of the 2.5%, in the last 10 days, one every night. I'll split it up into 10. No, do it from now. And then, wallahi, if you have 1 pence, and you spend 1 pence in Laylatul Qadr, because you spent all of your money in the days before, wallahi, that 1 pence will be greater than the man who wastes lives waiting for Laylatul Qadr and spends 100,000. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that it is not the meat and the blood of the slaughtered animals that reaches Allah, it is your taqwa. It is your taqwa. Who has more taqwa? The one who spends £1,000 in zakah at the beginning of Ramadan? Or the one who waits thinking he's a businessman with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yeah? So fard before nafl. Always fard before nafl. Never ever the other way around. Fard before nafl. Yeah? The Prophet ﷺ said, the one who prays Isha behind the Imam and then prays whatever the Imam prays, it is as if he's prayed the whole night. Okay? So let's say, for example, here in the Dar, as an example, the Imam prays Isha and then another Imam prays Taraweeh. If you just pray Isha and go home, you've prayed the whole night. Let's say that the Imam prays Isha and then he prays 2 rak'ahs of Taraweeh. You pray Isha, 2 rak'ahs of Taraweeh, as if you prayed the whole night. He also said, the one who prays Isha in the mosque and Fajr in the mosque, it's as if he's prayed the whole night. So now we've prayed the night twice. We've prayed the night twice. We prayed Isha and whatever the Imam has prayed. And we've prayed Isha and Fajr. We've just prayed twice. Now imagine if you do Taraweeh on top of that. But if you imagine that you're stupid enough that you miss Isha, you pray Taraweeh and you don't come for Fajr. How will you feel on the Day of Judgment? The next guy standing next to you, he just prayed Isha, he went home, and he came and prayed Fajr and he went home. And you spent 1.5 hours in Taraweeh. How will you feel on the Day of Judgment knowing that? Yeah? How will you feel? It's so crazy. I see people running. Isha's finished and they're running. Yeah? And it's like, guys, you missed everything. You're getting just the crumbs. You've missed everything. And then they won't come back for Fajr. So this is the most important thing. Don't just think, oh, it's just Dhuhr. No, it's Dhuhr. Go pray in the mosque. Pray in the mosque. And for the sisters, the same thing. And if you can pray Fajr, you have a safe way of doing it, then do it. Okay? Then do it. Because the Prophet said, do not stop the servants of, or the female servants of Allah from going to the mosque. If you have a safe way of doing it, then do it. Inshallah. Then do it. Does that make sense? Okay? So always the fard before the sunnah. Always. Always. So much so that the ulama have said, because one of the conditions of praying zakah is you have to wait for a year. Even if the year hasn't finished, but you know how much you're going to pay anyway, you can pay it early if there's a need. And there's people dying every single day. Look how the fard always comes before the sunnah. And the fard always has priorities and we make loopholes so that the fard can be achieved more than the sunnah. Always. Always. The one who can do the fard, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him the blessings to do the sunnah. Now this isn't to say don't do the sunnah, because the sunnah safeguards the fard. The reason why we pray sunnah is because if you pray Isha, your mind wanders, it comes, it goes. So the sunnah, the reward of the sunnah fills in the gaps that you had in your fard. No one is saying don't miss it. What we are saying is don't miss fard and then do your sunnah and think you're a Superman. You're not. You're the exact opposite. Okay, I've mentioned most of what I wanted to mention. Does anyone have any questions? And also it's Ramadan and my throat is sore and there's no water. Any questions?
With regards to coming to Tarawih late, for example, if you miss Isha, if you catch 2 rakats of Tarawih and then extend your Isha after that.
But it's not in congregation. Unless there's a second congregation. But still it's better to do Tarawih than nothing. But what I'm saying to you is have the urgency and the zeal that you have for Tarawih, for Isha, and more. And much more. Yeah. I mean, these days I feel very tired, so I don't do Tarawih. Like sometimes I won't do Tarawih in the masjid. I'll pray Isha and I'm leaving, and people give me this dirty look as they're walking in, having missed Isha. But it's because they don't understand. And actually the Prophet ﷺ, his sunnah was not to pray Tarawih in the masjid. He did some days and he wouldn't some other days, because he didn't want it to become a fard for this ummah. He didn't want it to become something obligatory. Yeah. So for that reason he didn't, he would some days at home and some days in the mosque. And then when Umar afterwards made it one congregation in the mosque, that was for other reasons. It was for other reasons. But still you'll find the Sahaba would do it at home and they'll do it in the mosque. It's not a problem. It doesn't have to be done in the mosque every single. But the congregation in the mosque, that's what you should do.
Okay, so praying alone, whether it's in the mosque or anywhere else, it's the same reward if it's alone?
For the
For all the fard?
other than fard.
No, for all the fards.
No, fard in the mosque.
Okay,
It's
but
much better.
if it's alone in the mosque?
No. Okay. The congregation is multiplied by 27.
Yeah.
Okay, so whether it's in the mosque or somewhere else, congregation is multiplied by 27. So
Yeah.
always, you'll find in Islam that the thing that's done in congregation gets rewarded more, unless that thing can't be done in congregation, like fasting. You can't fast in congregation. Yeah, but even breaking the fast, if done in congregation, there's more blessing in it. Okay, so the prayer always in jama'ah is greater than the. But what I'm saying to you is Tarawih, which is a nafl, which is sunnah, whether you do it alone or in congregation isn't that big a deal. The difference isn't that big. Yeah, it's not the same as Isha or Fajr. Inshallah. And Ramadan has a buzz, of course. And we live in the West, and Christmas has a buzz. Everyone's in that mood and that spirit. And part of the joy of Ramadan is going to the mosque and seeing that buzz for Taraweeh. But don't let that misguide you from thinking that that's more important than the fard. Yeah. So this is very beautiful. Even if you're just going to go and sit down, just sit down. Taraweeh. Don't even pray if you can't. Just sit down and listen to the Quran. No problem. It's beautiful. Yeah. And to me, your brothers, and to me, your sisters, it's beautiful. But all I'm saying is the fard comes first. The fard comes first. So if you're so tired, and the question is, okay, I'm going to pray Taraweeh, but I'm going to be too tired to pray Fajr in the mosque, then don't pray Taraweeh. Make sure you pray Fajr in the mosque better. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. If you can do both, of course, much better. Any other questions? So what have you learned from this, just so that I make sure that I was clear and also that it was useful? What have you learned? Or what will you do differently? Or what will you do, not differently, what will you do now after this?
I guess not rush iftar.
Not rush iftar. Or you can rush it, but don't
Don't overfill.
overfill. Okay.
Be more conscious when you're actually eating.
Okay.
And be a bit more conscious of the things that are actually made easy. We focus a lot on our hardships.
Okay.
lot of our hardships, but we don't, as you said, focus enough on the things that are actually made easy for us.
Okay, Jazakallah. What else?
Define taqwa differently.
Okay.
More-
What will you do differently now?
So, yeah, the thing that you said was that it's not a feeling. That's an interesting. Usually we look at it as a spiritual high, but actually that's probably iman rather than.
You know the
Because taqwa is manifested in your actions. It's just a better way of measuring it rather than how you feel.
whole spiritual high thing. My personal opinion about that is very misleading. And there's no actual term within fiqh that speaks about a spiritual high. Yeah, there's no term about that. But what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says is that, for example, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ, that indeed by the remembrance of Allah the heart finds tranquility. And so tranquility is talked about. And tranquility actually is not the same as a spiritual high. The spiritual high doesn't feel very tranquil. It's more excited. So a spiritual high can sometimes be an illusion from the actual process of taqwa, of ihsan, or it can stop you from doing that. Because what happens is you chase the spiritual high as opposed to you chase the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does that make sense? So some people, for example, and lots of people do this, for example, say, oh, when I was at university, I used to have the spiritual high. What you're talking about, mate, is that when you're at university, you're in a group of people, and it was nice. And that social buzz, you called spiritual high. But you were just chilling out, Islamically.
That's why people go to Taraweeh more than Fajr,
Right.
because at Taraweeh there's 200 other people.
Exactly.
And a nice party, and at Fajr
Exactly. There's a spirit, there's a buzz. That whether that buzz is spiritual high or not, I would argue that it's not. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ, this itmi'nan. It's a feeling of tranquility. Now, the Prophet ﷺ mentions that, for example, if you lower your gaze, or if you love for your brother what you love for yourself, or more than you love for your sister, more than you love for yourself, then Allah puts a sweetness, a halawa inside of your heart. But again, that's not a spiritual high. It's if you've ever felt it, it's a very, very rested, tranquil, rooted feeling. Yeah? It's not like a teenager, Christmas tomorrow type of feeling. Do you understand? It's not Eid tomorrow. It's more of a really rooted, yes.
Can I just add a point to that? It's interesting because when we talk about highs, what follows a high is
a low.
Is a knock down
Yeah.
low. The tranquil is a consistent, steady state.
Exactly.
And that is, as you say, more beautiful and a lot more calming than the high, because after that follows.
See, this is why a lot of people get depression. A lot of Muslims, they get that depression as well. And then it's very hard to get that spiritual high. That spiritual high basically comes from you praising yourself, which can get in the way of sincerity a little bit. Yeah? And I'm not saying that you don't feel good. No, you'll feel good, but it's a tranquil good. It's a goodness in the bones. You feel it in your very essence. It's not the same as that happiness that when you go to the mosque and you see your friends and you're laughing, etc. That's halal, but that's not what we're talking about. And this whole thing about Islam, the term spiritual is very inaccurate, because the word spiritual describes a noun, whereas the spirit, the action of a spirit is a verb. Yeah, I don't want to lose you, but I wouldn't even use the term spiritual. Like, there's no such thing as a spiritual high. There's no such thing as it's just your spirit. Do you understand? It doesn't, the heart, يُقَلِّبُ الْقُلُوبَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turns the heart. So one day you have more iman, the next day you don't. But that's got to do with taqwa. That's just more or less. It's not a spiritual high. Does that make sense? Your spirit doesn't get high. Okay? Even in the ghetto, the spirit doesn't get high. Yeah? The spirit is just a spirit. The spirit is just a spirit. Whether it obeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and feels tranquil, or whether it disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and feels agitated. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that leave that which agitates you and causes you doubt for that which doesn't. Yeah? So what's that talking about? It's talking about tranquility. It's talking about tranquility. There's no problem with feeling good. There's no problem with feeling that. But that's not what we're after. Does that make sense? That's not what we're after. Okay, so the patient not gulping it down, yeah. Not just using your mouth as a slide for the food to go down into your stomach, and changing the way that you perceive taqwa. What else? What else have you learned?
Patience in the moment was an interesting one, anger and patience are quite connected. In fact,
Okay.
you said everything in patience.
The thing with anger is that a lot of people think you shouldn't get angry. This is wrong. Who here thinks you shouldn't get angry?
You should learn to control it, not necessarily
Yeah.
get angry.
Yeah, you should learn to control it, because there's two narrations. The Prophet ﷺ, once a man went up to me and said, advised me, he says, don't get angry, don't get angry, don't get angry. And another thing, he said, do you know who the strong man is? He said, Allah and the Messenger know best. He said, the one who can control himself in anger. Okay? So that means there are two levels. There's some guy who can't control himself, and when he gets angry, don't get angry. Yeah? That guy, don't get angry. Because that's just, don't get angry. Just don't go there. Okay? But there's someone else who can control himself when he gets angry. For that person, it's okay to get angry, and it's a source of strength. It's a resource. So Abu Bakr, when the Ridda happened after the Prophet died and then people didn't want to pay zakah, he got extremely angry. And the Arabs used to say, look at him, he's a little camel. He's so calm. He had a hunchback, he's so calm, don't worry about him, he's not like the Prophet. Yeah? The Muslims have chosen a weak man, and therefore we won't give zakah. He became so angry, and then one of them said, no, you think he's a small little weak camel? You will see that he is the most ferocious of male, angry camels. And this is exactly what happened. He got so angry, and he said to the Sahaba, I will go and fight them myself. I'll fight the whole of Arabia myself to get the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You guys stay here. And when they saw that, they then realized the gravity of the situation, and they changed their opinion. So anger, there's a way to be angry and patient. And that's how to control your anger. Do you understand? There's a way to do it. To feel it surging up and down your body, through your veins, no problem. But you're in control. You use it. And then there's the other side where it uses you, it controls you, and this is the one where you don't, if that's you, then don't get angry. Or go through a process of learning slowly how to do it otherwise. What else? The people haven't spoken. You're just, where are we today? What else did you learn? What did you learn about the Quran?
Sorry, before you get to thought, there's one other thing that I wanted to mention, which was you started out with saying fasting is a source of hardship. A lot of people take the approach that fasting is something that you should be able to train yourself to do so that it's not hard anymore.
Yeah.
So you should be in a heightened state of when you're fasting, you should actually be doing better work than when you weren't fasting.
I agree with that.
But taking that along with hardship.
What I meant is it easier to fast or to eat?
Yeah, of course it's easier to eat, but surely that hardship is helping you get better.
Yes, yes. But that's the thing with hardship. In this life, there's no such thing as. The irony is, in this life, the successful person is the one who finds an easy way to traverse hardship. Whereas the one who always fails is the one who finds the hardest way to traverse hardship. Hardship is hard enough as it is, so you should find the easiest way to go through it. So yeah, I agree in that terms, but in its essence, it's a form of hardship. You can make it easy, but in its essence. So for example, Yusuf's father, when Yusuf was taken, he said, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. He said, I have a beautiful patience. Meaning, I will turn this patience into something that I enjoy. Yeah, so yes, that's possible. But in its essence...
That practice of making the hardship easy for yourself is where you develop the most, so in that sense...
This is where you develop liberty. Because one of the things we've been tricked about in this culture, because of hedonism and because of liberalism, actually it comes from liberalism, because the thing about liberalism is that, look, who are you to tell me what to do? Who are you to tell me what to do? Yeah? I'm a free agent, I can do what I want. So don't tell me what to do. And then, well, it's not just you don't tell me what to do, but who said even God can tell me what to do? I mean, he's advising me, but I'm not going to do it today. That's how far it gets. And then it gets further as well till today. You look at a form, it says, gender. It used to be male, female, now is non-binary, other. It's like, what's that? That's stemming from liberalism. They're saying, I don't even want to be classified. It's like, dude, you're either a dude or a dudette. You're one of these two things. Yeah. Even if you have an operation, you go to the other one. Which one are you? Yeah. But this whole liberalism and not wanting to be categorized so that you're not then boxed into a particular way of behaving. Yeah. So, it's one of the diseases of the time. A really big one. But this just comes back to, that liberty that we get from fasting and praying, etc., is the liberty that they're looking for. I mean, something like 40 or 50% of transvestites commit suicide. Transgender, they commit suicide. And, they want us to, they think that when we think it's okay for them to do that they'll stop committing suicide. But in actual fact, they weren't happy with themselves beforehand, and then once they did that, they're like, look, there's nothing that could make me happy, so they commit suicide. Yeah. It's not about us accepting them, it's about them accepting themselves and just staying the way that they are. That's the case. About the Quran, what did you learn about the Quran? I'm not going to give the second talk if you guys didn't learn anything. What did you learn about the Quran?
It's better to...
What did you learn about the Quran?
They're basically open to your own interpretation of anything, but it's not from
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. What did you learn?
It's like it's put out there, and you can take it as you want.
What do you mean by take it as you want?
As in, you're being told. Everyone interprets.
Okay, fine. Whether they do or not.
Yeah.
Okay. But what did you learn about, what will you do differently about the Quran this time? What did you learn about the Quran? What will you do differently about when you read the Quran? Okay. What about Quran did I say you should do
Read it
differently?
in a language you understand, and try and absorb as much of it as possible, because it is the Quran.
Okay.
Instead of blindly just
Yes.
or
Uttering. Okay.
that's the uttering words that you don't understand.
There is shifa in the Arabic, in the ayat in Arabic. There is shifa, there's a healing. Okay? No two ways about it. But it's not a guidance. That's not a guidance. Does that make sense? If you're reading in Arabic that you need to knock or ask for permission before you enter into your parents' bedroom at particular times. So Allah makes it prohibited that you enter into your parents' bedrooms at particular times. For the sake of their privacy. And you're reading that in Arabic. But you don't know what it's saying. And so you go and you go in there. You've done a sin. You've sinned. You could have read that in English. And instead of and you're finding it hard to read in Arabic anyway. I mean, you could read it in English and understand and be guided. So read it in English, read it in whatever language you understand best. And Arabic, no problem. But if you only have 20 minutes, spend 15 in English and 5 in Arabic. because this is a month of guidance. The Quran is here to guide. And for the rest of the year as well, it's a month of guidance. I did this thing where I downloaded Abdul Basit, Qari Abdul Basit, and then I multiplied the voice by 3. Okay?
You mean the speed?
The speed. Okay? This is just an example. I'm just trying to say you can be creative if you want. If you understand Arabic, then you can be creative. So yeah, I understand Arabic. To me, I understand more when I see the bigger picture. So Surah Al-Baqarah, he reads it in 48 minutes. I can understand the whole picture in 48 minutes. But if it takes him 3 hours to read Surah Al-Baqarah, I get lost and my mind begins to wander. Yeah. So sometimes I'll listen to it very slow, sometimes I'll listen to it at this speed. But the point, what's my purpose? My purpose is to understand. My purpose is to understand. Okay? The Quran Project have a very, very beautiful English translation. Very, very nice. It doesn't have thy, thee and all of that. It's just normal English. Okay, very, very nice to understand. Very nice. Read that. Okay, I think they have copies of it in the Dar. The Quran Project. Okay? And you can buy one as well. There's another one, I can forward it to you if you remind me later, and then you can forward it to everyone, inshallah. But the Quran Project is even nicer than this one. Okay, but this one's done guy in Oxford or Cambridge, again in English, just normal English. Both are good. Okay, but read it in a language you understand. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks you, why did you not? Because the Prophet, the Quran will say on the Day of Judgment that the believers, mahjura, the believers neglected me. The Quran will complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the believers neglected it. Part of that neglect isn't just that you read it, yeah, and you don't understand it. You're just my iPhone basically. Yeah, you're just reading it. Play, stop, pause, fast forward, rewind. Okay, that's it. But it will complain that we were reading it and we did nothing about it. We didn't know what it meant. It's a big deal. It's a big problem. Yeah. So make sure you read the Quran. It's very easy to read a juz. A juz in Arabic takes 20 minutes if you're good at it. If you read the Quran fluently. A juz in English takes even less. And you read that, you're like, this is actually really enjoyable. I can understand why there's people who read this day and night. But if you don't understand Arabic, or it's hard, it's harder. You don't engage with it. Does that make sense? Any questions, and then we wrap up, inshallah. No questions? No questions? Any questions, sister? You just took your glasses off and you're just zoning out. No? Okay, jazakum khair. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Remember me in your du'as, please. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite us in heaven as He has united us today in His remembrance, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
So we'll move to the next segment, inshallah. So we stopped. It's going to be very everyone talking so. So we stopped at ayah number 4.